Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
From Britain to America, this is where the racing continues. It is Road Atlanta. It's round number 2 of season 1. It is the Danny Lee Porsche Cup by GT Omega. I'm Alexa Marshall, joined by Adam Reed. Our producer Samula Kumo is in the background to bring you all the shots that you will see this evening. It is an infamous circuit. It is Road Atlanta, known for Petit Le Mans as well as IMSA. 12 corners, opened in 1970, 2.54 miles, 4.088 kilometers. Welcome to a racing circuit surrounded by greenery. Adam, this is going to be a good race to watch.
Absolutely is. Road Atlanta always brings a fantastic plethora of racing, whether that be in sports cars, in GT cars, or if it, of course, is Porsche Carrera Cup. No matter what, Mazdas even, it will bring a show. The elevation on this circuit is absolutely incredible. Of course, the track length at 2.3 miles. The track temperature looks pretty decent out there. A lot warmer than it actually is currently outside here in the UK, but just north of Basildon in Georgia, US of A. Road Atlanta is the location for our second round of the season. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all pans out, because of course the standings that we're going to be showing you very later on, do not get settled with them. They're going to change around a lot around this very difficult technical circuit.
Another key thing to point out going into this round is that it's slightly different. We have a race every 2 weeks. However, the way that the races are done alternate. On some of the rounds, it is 2 25-minute races. However, tonight it is a 45-minute singular race. So instead of having 2 chances to go racing around the circuit where you may have a bad race 1 and try get back in race 2, you've got to do all the talking in race number 1. And the only race.
It's going to be really difficult, especially if you do have troubles in that race. You're really going to have to look back at that one and think, where have I gone wrong? Because you're not going to get a second chance, unlike Silverstone. So these drivers are really going to go in there with a different mentality compared to the very open race at Silverstone, where of course they know they had 2 different opportunities. They had that reverse grid race for race 2. So our drivers are going to have to change up the mentality, and they currently work their way around the circuit here and practice, and they currently have about 12 minutes left of the session, so really kind of have to dial in these cars for the last couple of minutes to get an idea. There is your elite class standings, and it's Corey Lazarus at the top of the standings.
Corey Lazarus sits P number 1 in the elite standings, with Felix Botta sat in P number 2 on 81 points, only 2 points separating those two drivers, of course. Corey Lazarus winning race 1 at Silverstone. Alexandro de la Flor, the Spaniard, sits in P number 3 with 78 points, with 74 points going to Oscar Bernterson, who sits P number 4, the race 2 winner at Silverstone. It's then Elias Filoni with 64 points, followed by Luke Andrews on 61. 57 then go to Chris Van Denise with Danny Lee in P number 8, 57 points, with Stefan Bosch in P number 9 with 57. Simon Mazzomo then rounds out the top 10, followed by George T. Tyler, Matt Strand with 0 points both each. Of course, only the top 10 having points on what they have at the moment. The Pro Class standings and goes to Luke Blow in P number 1 of those standings, 83 points sat to his name. It's then Dean Powell in P number 2 with 80 points. 76 points then brings P number 3 for Willie Bear, with Steve Clays in P number 4 with 72. 66 points goes to Jesper Burns in P number 5, with Christopher McDuff, the Scotsman, in P number 6 with 57. Tied with P number 8 and 7 of Edric Lees and Shannon Fever, with Bruno Tiago Botica with 42 points in P number 9 and Rhys Saunders in P number 10. It's then Ben Alteria and Keithan Pay in P number 12. Ben and Keithan having 0 points to their name. With the AM standings, it is Mike Pierce who sits at the top, 90 points to their name as it currently stands, with Uday Kunti sat in P number 2, 81 points. 1 point behind them, sitting on 80, is Jeremy Walsh in P number 3, with Ed Junker, P number 4, 73 points. 69 points then goes to Martin Kenyon in P number 5, with Samuel Clark in P number 6. P number 7 goes to Rodriguez with 57 points, with Ricardo Luis Piera in P number 8 with 51. 40 points then goes to BJ Alvarez in P number 9, with P number 10 going to Derek Reed on 39 points. Then Andrew Fellows, who sits P number 11, with Grammy Vivas, who sits P number 12. That is what it stands, Adam, and we definitely have one hell of action to come your way this evening, with, of course, George Tyler currently sat at the top here in free practice with 1 minute 19.758.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to be working their way around this circuit that they've already found out is so technical, and really you need to be on the limit on this circuit around Road Atlanta. You've really just got to be placing that car on the limits, really use every single piece of road surface there, and also traffic, in especially qualifying, is going to be so crucial. You're already seeing here George Tyler for the Cube Control Reparto Corsa team, currently making his way through the S's section as he heads his way on toward the left-hander. So bumpy through that first section over the big curve that they are allowed to use. So track limits, don't worry about too much about them. That is just going to be one that you can absolutely abuse that car over. Luke Andrews here in second place. How will he fare? Of course, he's dialing in as well, teammates with George Tyler as well. So the Cube Controls Reparto Corsa cars are really working their way to a very good practice. But of course, it is just practice, so don't be thinking that these are going to be the final results. And you're already seeing the gaps here, a tenth of a second, or just over that, separating the top 5. I think that's Felix Botta currently in the pit lane there in 5th place. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Sitting second in the championship, I think he's got a great opportunity. But going back to the circuit, you're already seeing one of the best parts about that circuit. Oh, unfortunately, we just cut away from it. But yeah, it was the chicane here that Danny Lee, the owner of the championship, is currently heading through. That little chicane there, great hot spot for overtaking. You go over the crest, underneath the bridge, down the hill, use the curve there on the left hand side to get it around that final corner and on towards the timing beam, where you will set your qualifying lap time. So really interested to see how the drivers are dialed in and where the focus is for them.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about qualifying as well. It's only free practice, so many drivers are going to be running different setups, see what they are going to be able to do. But with as much greenery as there is around Road Atlanta, quite different to Silverstone, where there was quite a bit of tarmac you can use. Not so much here at Road Atlanta as we cross the Atlantic. So it's really interesting to see how much they're going to be pushing those cars and how much you can sit on the limit, especially in qualifying.
It will be interesting. I think it's also going to be interesting to see how much can these drivers push here. You know, it's going to be all about, can I push a little inch here? Could I maybe extend this curve there? If it does work, can you get away with it even if you make a mistake? I think mistakes are going to be very much punished here at Road Atlanta. You've got to keep it on that black surface. Otherwise, you will find yourself careering into a tyre barrier or a concrete wall on the right hand side. There is Ricardo Luis Pereira, I believe the Portuguese driver, one of two in the championship for the Bottaloop Competizione car, all in red for Luis Pereira, and the 210 will head over the crest and on towards the right hand of the final corner. So it'll be really intriguing to see how each of these classes, of course, like you said, there's an elite pro, and an amateur class as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Ooh, that's a moment there for Luis Pereira, and backs it into the tyre barrier. Unfortunately, he will head back to the pits. And yeah, not quite being able to fully control that 510 horsepower Porsche Cup car.
Already seeing the circuit claiming its first victim here tonight through the fast right-hander. You've got to wonder how many of those are going to be claimed in the races, as we see Oscar Bernson pulling over to the side of the road and coming back to the pit lane after getting that lap done. New fastest lap time by the Swede, and it is a 1 minute 19.524. So that is not too bad from the man from Sweden. Although, it is going to be an interesting one. We've got just over 5 minutes, 5 minutes 20 seconds remaining now here in free practice. Most of these drivers, I'm going to be guessing, will be running on qualifying setups right now, trying to get as much time out of that car as you can, trying to prepare for the qualifying session that is going to be coming their way very, very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be really intriguing to see how what setups are they on, because of course, you know, qualifying and the race are two very different things. You know, for the race, you're going to be running high fuel, and of course, you're going to be running a more sturdy car, because you need to keep control of the car for the 25 minutes that will go through. And then, of course, you've got qualifying where you'll be on low fuel. The rear will be a little bit more twitchy. You're going to have to get those tyres switched on. And, of course, with 15 minutes around a circuit like Road Atlanta, it is very much going to be, you have to be on your A game the minute you leave the pit lane. You're going to have to get your setup on and leave the pit lane and be on your A game. Find that space, find that clear air. Do not get blocked. Otherwise, you will find yourself in a bit of a difficult position, as you can see Felix Botta really attacking the circuit. So I think he's really on for a qualifying run now in these final 4 minutes. So you've really got to put yourself into the zone of trying to push that car to the limit. So you already see the rear is twitching out, and it is only practice.
It may only be practice, however, the drivers are going to be right on the limit. Now 200ths of a second separating on the top two. That is Andrews, who's gone up to number 2, just behind Bertson, going over to Max Strand as he's making his way around the circuit, as well as Luke Blow, one of the pro drivers, of course, elite classified on the timing tower by the gold little bar next to the name, the pros by the silver bar, and then the AMs by the orangey bronzish bar, as you can see, and it's now at the top of your screen. Currently, the top in elite is Burnson, top in pro is Blow, and top of AM is Gahabid. I'm so sorry if I botch pronunciations. As we go down into the chicane, this is going to be one of the key factors when it comes to the race, in my opinion. That infamous chicane around Road Atlanta towards the end of the lap. You're going to be able to go medium speed or high speed throughout majority of the circuit. However, we may see a cheeky 1 or 2 moves going down the inside there. But like we saw at the Vale Chicane in Silverstone, going for a move there may not always work, and it may end up hurting you more, as it is very, very easy to cause collisions.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting because, of course, you can make moves at the Vale and Club Chicane in single-seaters, but in very boxy Porsches, it's a whole different kettle of fish. So I think a lot of the drivers will be very aware that they are in a Porsche unless they do see that red mist descend on their visor and decide to go for a very, very rash move. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. That was Gabdi, the Ukrainian, just heading back to the pit. So I think that's the first time we've got a Ukrainian in this in the Danny Lee Porsche Cup Championship. Michael Pearce heading off the circuit. He is currently sitting in P1 in the AM category, so he will be looking to hopefully extend that championship lead. We now switch to Alessandro Della Fiore, the Spaniard, in the championship. He'll be hoping to put in a decent effort, but 21st doesn't look too good. 1.2 seconds off the pace, but we'll have to see if that changes anytime soon. If he's potentially maybe on a maybe he's potentially kept his cards close to his chest, and this might be his race run with a higher fuel load and just practicing, just trying to keep it within limits, as well as Chris van den Denise heads to the top. The Dutchman for the Manti Racing team, 1:19.4 be the time to beat. I think that will be a little bit lowered when we do eventually go into that qualifying session.
Most definitely. You were talking about it as well from Ukraine. This series has a lot of people from many different nations from all over the world. It is mainly comprised of Europeans. We've got people who are Dutch, people who are British, a few are German, a few people from Norway. We do have a Singaporean of Betty in here. We've also got some Americans, and then we've also got a few people from New Zealand and Australia. So it just really shows, when it comes down to sim racing like this, and especially the Daniel Lee Porsche Cup, that sim racing is just one big community. Everybody's worldwide, wherever you are watching, whatever time it may be for you, because it is currently, it's only 8:15 in the evening here, but I can only imagine what time it is for the New Zealand and Australian racers who are currently in this server.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a very, very tough feat especially for the likes of the Singaporeans. Actually, I think the Americans will actually be the most awake in terms of, in all honesty. What that Puerto Rican in Reyes there, down in 24th. That is marvellous to see, as it looks like Luke Blow for the Blair Autosport team will head back into the pits. The time's getting reset, and we now head into that all-important qualifying stage, and it's going to be such a busy circuit. 30 plus cars out on the circuits. You're currently seeing the scenes here at Road Atlanta, the elevation you're just seeing there. Of course, the Michelin tyres, the sponsorship there, and there is the number 17 rolling out of George Tyler. He'll look to take on the circuit. Now enter the ever-important qualifying session.
Yeah, and as we go into qualifying, it is very, very important to note that this racing series, it was made by Daniel Lee, it is hosted as well, but it's not possible without the sponsors, and the title sponsor for this series is GT Omega. Of course, a big thank you to them and their support of the series. GT Omega is a Scottish company and UK's leading supplier of sim racing cockpits, gaming chairs, and essential gaming accessories. Delivery to the UK, EU, and USA, they offer a range of excellent, valuable sim racing cockpits for beginners to advanced. And on top of that, you can get 5% off of all GT Omega products with the discount code DannyLee, all in capitals, DANNYLEE, and you can check out their full range of accessories and more at gtomega.co.uk, gtomega.eu, or gtomega.com. Also, the key thing to note about this, and this is incredible from them, 3 lots of GT Omega £100 vouchers will be awarded to 3 competitors at the end of the season in a draw. So not only are these drivers fighting for a good old spot on the podium, but they're also going to be fighting to get into that draw to hopefully get some of those GT Omega £100 vouchers as Danny Lee now makes his way around the Road Atlanta circuit.
Yeah, absolutely is trying to work the steering wheel through the left and in toward the right hander, trying to clip the apex as he does exactly there. He'll probably kick up a little bit of mud onto the circuit as well as he goes through the garage, trying to excavate every single ounce of time he possibly can, just trying to avoid the track limit warning through there, really putting that car on the limit, closing onto the white lines there. You don't want to be on those white lines because that will signify you're very close to the garage, which could end up you going for a spin if you touch the slippery surface. Qualifying very much now in towards the thick of it here as we now see Oscar Bernardson, of course, looking very, very quick in that practice session. That white, black and yellow livery comes down the hill and on towards that last corner. You're very much on the limit of throttle. You're probably having a little bit of a bleed, a little bit of a throttle lift in that Porsche or Oscar Bernardson. I'd love to see the inputs that a lot of these drivers are putting in, because you know you'll see a lot of them may kind of out of just out of safety have a little bit of a lift. And there goes Elias Finoli, the Swedish driver. Lovely profile picture for the MaximRacing.com driver. That is absolutely incredible. I do love when people go a little bit funny with their or unserious with their profile pictures. It's brilliant to see, and it just adds a little bit of character. And we can already tell just by that Elias Finoli is an absolute character, but I'm sure he's an absolute monster behind the wheel.
The shades may be deceiving, but the speed may not be, as Chris Van der Nies is up there at the top now. 1 minute 20. 1:26. The next driver behind them is then Felix Votter with 1 minute 20. 1:52. So it's going to be an interesting one right now, as that was the last lap and it is the fastest lap. Everybody's now getting the first laps done. They're on to the second laps. How is everybody going to fare out? We got a Dutchman P1, a German P2, a Swedish P number 3. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where everybody will go, as there is plenty of improvements across the board as I'm looking at the timing screen.
Yeah, there's still a potential for some of these drivers to, you know, get a time in. There's still some opportunities there. I think at this moment in time, they're just fueling up so the car can burn and go through the fuel. The tyres do take a while to get up to temperature. They're not like single seaters. They still need a lot of time to get up to speed. They need about 4, potentially even 5 laps. That's the way the tyres work in Porsche Carrera Cup. A lot of potential viewers may be used to the single seated where it takes maybe a lap or 2 to get up to temperature, but yeah, these are getting quite loaded as well, but not as compared to some of the high downforce single seaters you'll potentially see in the likes of Formula 1, Formula 2 and Formula 3 levels of categories. And we now currently see at this moment in time, here's the 116 heading through. And Fever crossing the line as well, but as they head towards down the hill here, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these drivers really start to focus up here, because of course now we've got 10 minutes remaining, and that doesn't seem like much on the clock, but really just take into consideration how they're doing. Wiley Blair as well goes 21st for his first lap, the Australian, hoping for a little bit better.
Going to hope for a little bit better lap time, and of course, if anybody new is tuning in, we'll let you know what is happening at the bottom of the screen. If you are seeing green sectors popping up, that is a personal fastest in that lap time. A yellow is no improvement, but then if a purple pops up, that is a session fastest within that sector. The time to beat right now, 1 minute 19.434, set by the German of Felix Votter, followed by Finoli and Chris Van der Nies. So Chris Van der Nies, who was up top, has been dethroned. They've been put down into P number 3. But of course, like you were saying, Adam, we have got just under 10 minutes remaining now. And you were talking about IRL series. And of course, we're driving Porsches here. But if I'm going to liken this to any series that is going on in real life right now, I get major British Touring Car Championship vibes from the way that these drivers race each other, fight each other. These drivers really give up their all, both in qualifying and in the races.
Yeah, it seems a little bit more active than the Porsche Carrera Cup that I'm used to. I usually watch something like the Porsche Mobile One Super Cup or the Porsche Carrera Cup GB. I usually dip in and out of Porsche Carrera Cup North America, maybe when it's on with for the likes of IMSA. But yeah, GB and Super Cup are mainly what I'm used to. The gaps have been very tight in practice, but I wonder how many drivers are showing their actual pace and how many are still building up. Because of course, that's a really fast time there for Felix Votter, 1:19.433. It's very similar to the times that were being inputted in here for the practice session. There goes Chris Van der Nees, making himself apparent as he puts himself up towards 6:10 to call the pro category. Their time at the moment is a 1:20.3, and that's been set by Dean Powell there up into P10, as it looks like Gabdi, the Ukrainian driver, goes over the line to put it P11, just under a second slower than Votter, which is not too bad for an amateur. 1:20.4, but they were looking to be digging a little bit deeper, potentially at the 1:20.1s, maybe 1:20.2s. If one of those maybe pros or abs can get into the 1:19.9s, I'll be highly impressed.
Well, it all comes down to how far can you push that car to its absolute limits. That is the true question, as Dean Powell goes to the line, stays P10 at this current moment in time, making their way around the circuit. And it is going to be, honest, this is also a thing that I would like to mention. These liveries that you're going to see across the season with many series, especially here on PC and iRacing, you're going to see a lot of personal liveries out there. Of course, you've got Daniel Lee's livery, which, as Matthew Duffin, my co-commentator, said last week, is very likened to a Napa livery. Whereas looking at Dean Powell's car right now, I'm getting some good old Williams vibes, which honestly is not an insult because I'm a Williams fan.
Yeah, it seems like they're very different here. I think that's 124 of Karam Bedi, the Singaporean. That's a very default looking car. You can see that the Porsche on the Porsche logo on the side there. So it's quite a default livery, but there's nothing wrong with the default livery. It's a nice silver blend with the light blue stripes, and as some people like to say, go faster stripes. So hopefully that adds an extra 10 to Karam Bedi's time. You can only manage 30th at this moment in time. Unfortunately, the slowest of the pro category drivers. I think that Corey Lazarus is also on a good time, as well as Mike Pearce. They look to potentially put in a lap time. Of course, Corey Lazarus, the championship leader for the elite. So I wonder what he's going to be doing, especially with his time, as we now spot him heading down in towards this left-right chicane of 10 and 11. Oh, the rear starting to step out there for Lazarus. He goes over the crest here, up to 4th he goes, using as much of the track as he possibly can before turning into the last corner, past the big Michelin building on the left-hand side, and he'll go to 18th place there for Corey Lazarus. He still needs to get himself a little bit more in the groove here of this Road Atlanta circuit compared to the rest of his drivers who've done a bit more, a few more laps than him, but he needs to get on quickly here. There's only 5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, and this is going to be a key thing with Corey Lazarus. We saw it last week at Silverstone. He is very good on the race start, so that is going to be a major rear end slip as he goes off onto the side of the circuit, keeping it straight though, keeping it clean, and he keeps the car going. But he's going to want to get up further into that field, because that is going to give him the extra launch that he seemed to have at Silverstone last week. Of course, race 1 started P number 5, got a major launch on the start, and he went on to lead that entire race 1 all the way to the finish line. So it's going to be interesting, and we shall see what he's going to be doing here at Road Atlanta, of course, in America rather than Britain. Now going to be watching the driver that is currently heading around the circuit. That's going to be Brian Alvarez, the 217, who is now into barrier, and that is going to be extremely unfortunate. He does not have a lap time on the board currently, along with Edric Lees. 39 drivers on the grid this evening. He's going to have to hope that he can get back to the pits, get out, get a lap in. Otherwise, he will be starting at the back of the grid.
He absolutely will be. I think it's just best to set a banker and then a lap time here. That's the way you've really got to go about this. Corey Lazarus there in that elite category. He's still having to push a little bit more here. He's quite the way off the best time, 1.1 seconds. He's currently mixing it with the, I believe that's the pro category, of course, in the with the silver line next to them. He's currently still being led by Dean Powell. Dean Powell, very, very good driver on iRacing. Putting himself into that top 10, making himself very apparent. I wonder where Dean Powell could potentially mix with the top guys in this race, because he's only 8.5 tenths off Felix Votter, but we already know how quick the likes of Votter and Chris Van der Nies and Finoli are. I'm impressed with Matt Strand as well, because I don't think he managed to get do silver, so as far as my knowledge goes, but he's already put himself into a really decent position, put himself just under 4 tenths slower than Felix Votter, just ahead of Alessandro Della Fiore, who's currently sits third in the elite standings. Matt Strand could be very much a dark horse going into what could be potentially his first proper round of the Danny Lee Porsche Cup Series.
Most definitely. This is always a key thing when it comes down to racing as well, as we're going to stay on board with Corey Lazarus right now as he continues to try and improve to continue to get further up that grid order, the championship leader in the elite standings, trying to do what he can. This is the key thing when it comes down to racing. Do not count out the new people or the underdogs. Sometimes there are people who can just sit there in the background and pick up those points, and that can really help you out in a campaign over several races and with several different race types, of course, with the Daniel Lee Porsche Cup being, some rounds being a singular 45-minute race, the others being two 25-minute races. Of course, we're going to have a singular 45-minute race coming up your way this evening at the end of qualifying, which we are now entering the final 1 minute 20 seconds as we head through the chicane on board with Corey Lazarus. Last lap time was a 1:22.032. His best lap time at the moment, 1 minute 26.14. Trying to get as much improvement as he can as he comes around the corner under the Michelin, goes P5, 1:19.850.
It's a really good lap time there for Corey Lazarus. Put himself under a little bit of pressure with a minute to go and managed to deliver a really good lap. And he said, I am done. I am going to stop myself there. And I'm going to put myself, at this moment in time, sits 5th on the grid. Not too bad there for Lazarus, for sure. And I think that the Australian would be quite happy at this moment in time. Of course, it is very, very early in the morning. I believe depending on what time it is or whereabouts he is located in Australia, it's going to be very, very early in the morning for Lazarus. So fair dues if he is down under playing a little bit of iRacing at the ungodly hours in the morning.
Yeah, well, as nobody's going around right now, I've just searched it up real quick. The highest the sun will be up right now. In fact, it probably won't be up, because with Australia, it is between 6:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. So wherever he is, the moon is still going to be shining unless they have got a very, very early sunrise, as the 5-minute warm-up now starts as qualifying has come to an end. We are going to get your racing action in 5 minutes time. Warm-ups happen. Let's get ready. we're in the final minute throughout this session. We're going to wait and see how everything will stack up here coming in to the rest of this session. We've got the race coming your way in just under a minute's time. Of course, qualifying has been completed, so we're going to wait and see how everything will stack up here. Currently watching Bryce Saunders go around the circuit. Of course, the warm-up session known to let the drivers get a bit more bearing on the circuit. But of course, as we continue here, there is about 10 seconds left of the warm-up to go through, and then we will get into your main race. It's a 45-minute race coming your way here at Road Atlanta. There's still a few people in the pit lane, a few people out on circuit. The checker flag flies around the Road Atlanta track, surrounded by trees and greenery. Apologies. Right, we are going to have some very, very interesting action as let's get ready to rumble. The race is going to come your way. We wait for the drivers to get ready and raring to go. The race is about to begin. It is going to be Felix Votter who will line up on pole position. A very good qualifying of 1 minute 19 for 4.33. Then Chris Van der Nies, who sits P number 2 with Elias Finoli Chris Van der Nies P2, Elias Finoli P number 3. The Norwegian of Malstrand sits P number 4 to round out the second row, with last week's race number 1 winner Corey Lazarus sits P number 5 with Delafleur P number 6. Oscar Bernson, last week's race 2 winner, sits P number 7 with George Tyler P number 8. Luke Andrews sits P number 9 with Danny Lee rounding out the top 10. Then Dean Powell followed by Gabdi, who sits P number 12. And then going through the rest of the grid order, we have Mazzomo, Noel Edmondson, Steve Clays, Luke Blow, Burns, Saunders, McDuff. Pierce rounds out the top 20. Then Ben Altria, Martin Kayan, Richard, Piera, Viva, Blair. But as all eyes now go to the lights, we are racing at Road Atlanta. Let's get ready to rumble. It is Votter who's going to get a very good start. Everybody's going to go single file there momentarily. Going to spread out towards the back of the circuit. Heading now down into turn number 1. Through the right-hander. That's going to be a very good start for Felix Votter. He's going to stay there for the time being. That is not as much of a good start as last week for Lazarus. He did not get the jump like he did at Silverstone. Everybody's going to go through 1, 2, 3, down into 4 and 5. Nice and tidy. As many people may call it a snake as it squiggles through the greenery. Votter's going to get a good start. Blow getting past Piera further back. Healy losing out. Blair getting 2 places in that singular position. We are going further over the crest, over the little bumps. Try not to lose the rear end. In the background, you can see a yellow car. They're going to go down the inside. Gabdi is right behind him as well. That is a not so good start for Bernson. He's lost out of 2 position, but now he's going to get back past Gabdi, who's going to go through. Daniel Lee stays P number 10 for the time being. Further and further into Road Atlanta we now go. That's going to be a very, very good start for the race, Adam.
Absolutely, they're all line of standards at this moment in time. Felix Votter, I think we'll be looking at potentially trying to extend that lead. There goes Elias Finoli, who's going to be looking at that 32 there of Chris Van der Nies, but Chris Van der Nies will be having to look ahead here at Felix Votter. He does not need to leave a car's width at all to Felix Votter. He will have to just keep his nose smelling the exhaust fumes of Votter. Then we go Finoli, then we get Strand, then we get Lazarus, then we get Della Fiora with Andrews and Tyler and Powell with Danny Lee there rounding out the top 10. Bernardson gets past Gabdi ahead of Regan Edmonds there in 13th place, and some really good stuff there. I think that's Steve Clays there in 14th as well for the only Belgian in the championship. Finoli doing an absolutely brilliant job there. Looking back here with Reece Saunders, who's currently sitting now in 5th place in the pro category. I think that's a really good opportunity here for him to take 15th. But will he do it down here on the inside of Burns? I think he's just going to back off there to 1, 2, 3. He's going to have to try somewhere else rather than just risk a move in the first couple of minutes of this race.
Yeah, you got to be careful in these first few minutes. It seems like most drivers opt in. They know there's greenery around them. They do not want to touch the green stuff. That will, one wrong move, a little bit too much throttle, and you will be going round and into the barrier. As right now we're going to see Robin, who's on an attack, going down the inside of Gabdi, as a little bit of contact maybe into the gravel, goes around, and that is Noel Edmonds who is round and down into the grass at the chicane. As we said it during qualifying, was there going to be contact? The chicane claiming its first victim tonight.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate there for Joel Edmonds, as Jesper Burns will escape with no harm done. I don't think an investigation will go too heavily down in that one. I think it was just a simple little bit of a squeeze, and unfortunately Robin there just touched a bit of grass and sent that car spinning off into the grassy fields of Road Atlanta. Shannon Fever there in P18 side by side. In fact, this could get a little bit rough and tough here. I think also Callum McDuff, the Scotsman, also in there. 3 wide down in towards turn number 7 here. How's this going to turn out? It looks like it's going to be Ben Ultra who's now going to stick out around the outside there with McDuff in there as well. So it looks like the Scotsman will be second best with that. But Ben Ultra, who had a double DNF last time around, will be looking at a finish here. Meanwhile, up ahead here, Chris Van and Denise is very much on the defensive. 2 by 2. Lazarus there in playing defensive manoeuvres here as he looks to try and get past Strand, which he does, and Finoli unfortunately having the back of that move from Chris Van Denise. It's a really tough battle going on there. Now that Felix Votter gets to expand his gap up to 1.8 seconds.
As we also saw McDuff and Fever, the Scotsman and the Australian, having a little bit of a skirmish further back as Saunders gets past Clays, Blair past Neely and Fellows. Double overtake there, further down the field as you can see on the timing tower. On your left-hand side, going to go 3 abreast there momentarily. Going to go 2 wide, but into the grass again. Robin Noel Edmonds, seemingly keeping on the circuit that time, could have had another moment spinning it round, falling further down the field, but this time keeping it nice and tidy. Going to stick it on the black stuff and stay on the circuit. Going to go through the squiggles of the Road Atlanta, through the greenery, passing the trees. That's going to be a whole lot of green out the windshield and windows of that Porsche. But now going down in towards the braking zone, it looks like he's going to go for it, and he will get it done on Betty, and that is going on Rodriguez, I should say. The Brit getting past the American, and that is going to be a nice lovely overtake, as that is a car. We saw them momentarily. There they are. That is Nathan Healy. Seemingly lost the rear end on the exit, maybe touching a bit too much grass, and into the barrier.
So unfortunate there for the Irishman Nathan Healy. I had a bit of a worry that he was going to back onto the racing line, but luckily Nathan Healy is very knowledgeable to not do that. We now see Graham Fevers in 25th there of the privateer, using the green and black livery and helmet combination. I'm sure the race suit is probably lime green and black as well. Currently down in 25th, as somebody wants to turn their Porsche Cup car into a lawnmower. It seems like that's a very expensive lawnmower you have there.
I thought only Mercedes did that, but apparently Porsche do as well. Is that a new competition that's happening? That may have just been a board, but there may have been a car off in the background. I may just be seeing things, which honestly, who knows? As continuing around Road Atlanta, it just shows how quick these lap times can really get, because it doesn't feel like it, but we are already 5 laps into this race, and on lap number 5, it's going to be Matt Strand who is going to go for it, and he's going to lose out to Andrews, who is just ahead of him. He may lose out another position here on these drivers, as here comes George Tyler. Looked for it for a moment down the inside, will get it done to send Strand down to P number 7, and that is going to be the white, the green, the red, and that is a lovely looking George Tyler car for Cubes Control Reparto course, if I do say so myself. That was a lovely move that he was able to do, and who knows, he may be able to race anywhere, just like our supporting sponsor, Race Anywhere. Thank you to Race Anywhere for their support on the series on this race as well. Race Anywhere provides rated high quality sim racing equipment for the perfectionist, based in Daventry, United Kingdom, but delivery worldwide, specialising in sim magic. It is Cubic Controls, Sparko, Cobra, Pro Sim Rig, and more. Visit their showroom to experience exceptional sim racing equipment and take your order home with you, or order online at raceanywhere.co.uk, delivering globally. And as we continue here at Road Atlanta, that is going to be Gabdi, who goes off, spins it round with a lot of extra throttle, throwing up a bit of smoke. A little bit of a smoke screen the drivers will have to be aware of, heading through the right-hander, but that was a nice recovery.
It was just managed to keep that on the road surface, but Gabdi unfortunately had to drop back in multiple places there. Ricardo Luis Pereira, who are currently looking at up 4 from his grid position for the Bottle Loop Competizione car, the all red that we talked about earlier in the podcast. But let's have a look and see how our different classes are doing. Of course, we do know the elites are absolutely flying out on in front here, but Felix Motta with a 2.3 second advantage over Chris Van der Nies and Elias Finoli. Is still trying to latch onto the rear of Van der Nies, but I think he's going to have to look behind. I think it's Corey Lazarus is going to be very much keeping an eye on him. You can see that 0.2 of a second between the Swede and the Kiwi. We have now Dean Powell on our screens. He is with Danny Lee Racing. So Danny Lee 2 places behind them. The teammates are hopefully going to keep it clean here. But they do have Oscar Berntsson, the Swedish driver, who's going to be very looking to go on the attack here, down towards the chicane. Oscar Berntsson for MaxSimRacing.com. In the tow here, he's going to potentially move past that Powell car. He looks to the left hand side. Will he be later on the brakes? Daniel Ricciardo, I think it's going to have to be, decides to back off because they're not quite as strong as brakes as single seaters. But Oscar Berntsson keeping it very, very much on the limits here. Meanwhile, the battle further back, that is Luke Blow, the leader in the I believe the amateur class in the DLPC championship. Looks like Jesper Burns there in P4. So it is Powell from Saunders, from Blow, from Burns, and that is your top 4 for the elite. So not too bad there.
They're all keeping it nice and tidy, apart from that one car who is off on the circuit. Who was that? Was that Saunders? Or was that somebody else? Because that is 2 places ahead. That was Saunders. That was Rhys Saunders off on the circuit onto the green stuff. That is going to put them at the grasp, possibly the attack of Luke Blow. So he's going to have to be on a major defense here. The green and the blue now up against the orange, the reddish orange and the black. This is going to be an incredible battle, it seems, but that is Shannon Fever who is in the grass, the other orange and black car, and that is going to be off on the circuit. Round they go, gonna fall down to P number 23, probably 24 or further, off in the grass behind the tree and into the barrier. How much damage is going to be picked up on that car, if any, as it was hard to tell from that camera angle, as that is going to be an RTG. That is most likely them out of this race.
Yeah, that's going to be so unfortunate there for Shannon Fever, and their dreams are done and dusted. 2 spins, unfortunately, for that driver in the orange and black car, and that's going to be day done and dusted. They will exit the session, unfortunately. We now see Dean Powell currently being looked at here. Berntsson very much wanted to get past here, potentially put himself up to the top 9. But Danny Lee's also having a look at this. He could potentially help his teammate out at some point if he wants to potentially just start driving Berntsson in the mirrors. And get those eyes focusing on all around and get him looking up at the top of the rear view mirror. I think that would be really important for Danny Lee to potentially try and move his way past him. Hopefully push him and his teammate forward, but it looks like now Dean Powell will have to go on the defensive here with Oscar Berntsson. Now looking to the left hand side, is he now going to try it on the inside? The 36 will be later on the brakes. He absolutely is, and Oscar Berntsson with a brilliant move there made on Dean Powell, moves himself up to 9th, and I wonder if there'll be a bit of team orders for Powell to go and let his teammate Danny Lee pass. Of course, 2 different tiers, and it looks like it won't be an easy one, or will it? There you go, Danny Lee round the outside of his teammate Dean Powell in 2 different categories. That was a move I suspect was coming, and the 88 moves up into the top 10.
From the look of it, he moved over to the right hand side of the circuit. Did Powell that? Well, it might from what I saw, that was 100% team orders. Let him pass, let him go. It is a battle between the elite drivers. Danny Lee trying to chase down Berndsen as they are going to be in it. It's going to be an interesting fight. The key factor, Berndsen is going to be wanting to side through this field as quickly as possible and get past Lazarus, because both those two drivers, Lazarus and Berndsen, are the only race winners this season. Lazarus race number 1 in Silverstone, Berndsen race number 2 in Silverstone. So they are going to be looking for that second ever race win this season between a driver, or we could have a third race winner in the second round with a singular race. It's going to be an interesting one, but right now Lazarus is on the hunt for Van der Nies, the Kiwi, chasing down the Dutch.
It's going to be such a big battle that 2.2 seconds between Votter and Van der Nies. Votter has absolutely had a Sunday cruise. He is very much sitting out in front with a lovely gap, as Chris Van der Nies is having to push his tyres to the absolute limit with pressure from behind, the gap opening up in front. He's under a lot of pressure, and the Dutchman, I don't know how much he's going to be able to hold this for, because he's now, as I say, got Corey Lazarus, who's been on a real push here. The championship leader in the elite class will be looking for a podium spot in this highly competitive championship, but he's got to get past that 32 first. It looks like Elias Spinoli, I don't know if there's potential in his tyres starting to go off, but you know, the Swedish driver has not quite had the best of runs in the last couple of moments. I'm not entirely sure if that's potential fuel saving, tyre saving, or whatever's going on with the Swedish driver from MaximRacing.com. Has not quite gone in the favour of a podium, but I wonder if it's saving to potentially mount an attack in the latter stages.
Yeah, well, we're only... this is actually flown by, to be fair. We are now entering the 1/3 mark of this race. We're approaching that 15-minute mark in 10 seconds. We're already 1/3 through of this race around Road Atlanta, which just really shows how quickly time can fly by when you've got cars going around a circuit such as this. This is going to be a one hell of a fight when it comes down to it. Jesper Burns chasing down Saunders as it does currently stand, going through the right-hander onto the main straight, past Michelin sign and into turn number 1 again through the right-hander, trying to keep it on the circuit as much as possible, as right now Noel Edmonds is still going in this race. They had those spins earlier on, but they've kept it going. Sat P number 26 currently, and it is going to be an interesting fight overall. They're going to have it nice and tidy for the time being, most likely just backing off a bit, trying to keep it on the circuit and hopefully go for attack possibly in that final third.
It will be interesting to see how different drivers are playing this mini game of chess. So it's just it is basically a game of chess, but you're just using big race cars instead of oh, that's Robin Noel Edmonds off into the gravel trap, and that is unfortunately going to be the 1-2-1 sliding off, and unfortunately will drop a couple of places towards the back of the field, down 15 places for Robin Noel Edmonds. I think the car is just looking very twitchy and potentially with some damage on that race car. I wonder if that is not quite at its 100%. So yeah, Robin Noel Edmonds has gone through, almost gone through hell and back this race. We're not even, we're about to hit a quarter of the way through the race.
Yeah, it is extremely unfortunate, and just as I was saying, hopefully he can keep it on the circuit, as right now going to go down into turn number 1 again, watching Luis Piera, and it is going to be an interesting drive for him. He's currently on the defensive as he's got Gabdi right behind him. So these drivers are going to have a nice little fight when it comes down to it, but Luis Piera has to choose an option here. Do you use your attack as a defence, or do you use your rear as a defence? As of course, the best defence is offence, is what some drivers would say. So it's going to be interesting to see what Luis will select.
It will be, it will be interesting what the Bossa Loop Competizione driver chooses to do, but I don't think he can take many risks here. He is in the race lead here, the Portuguese driver of that AM category class. But I think he will want to prove a point, batting with Ben Altria, who of course had a double DNF last time out of Silvers, and he's wanting to make amends for that as well. So two very interesting drivers for sure. Will be very much both be on the limit, but he's now got to be careful here of Gabdi, who's currently running right behind him, 0.3 of a second, and at some point that yellow and blue car will have to go for an attack, because Abesta Gabdi, very much so, will be looking at that Porsche and thinking, there is a race lead in my debut race. You know, there's not many times where you get to sit behind the leader in your debut race, knowing that there is a potential for the race lead. Oh, we've had an off there for, looks like the Scotsman of Macduff here, Christopher Macduff. So it looks like now the Scotsman is going to be backing this pack up, and this is going to start to get very, very interesting here. 4 cars going at it down towards the turn 6 corner. I wonder if there's going to be any moves being made. There is.
Yeah, this has all worked in Gabdi's favour. That little mistake by Macduff going off the circuit has ended up backing him into Altria, and in turn Altria into Pereira, and then Pereira into Gabdi. So it's going to be an interesting one. These moves is right there for him as well. The Portuguese versus the Ukrainian, the battle for the amateur race lead. So these drivers are going to give it everything they've got, and it may be Pereira who is going to select the option of less attack and more defence, because although he's got pro drivers ahead of him, he is in the lead of this amateur division, and it may be the better option to just let it off a bit, select the high defence, and stick with that race lead you've got. Because if you've got an attack and you make a mistake, then that is going to leave the door wide open for the Ukrainian sitting right behind you.
Yes, quite a stressful scenario, I'd say, for a lot of these drivers, because Macduff has 4 cars behind him, all for position. You know, you've got Altria, who is really trying to make amends for Silverstone. We'd like to have a look at this battle, because this is Chris van der Nies, who's actually now feeling the wrath here of Carl Lazarus here. Lazarus is, I believe, has potentially gone on through Corey Lazarus, and that is a back marker, in fact. So I was getting a little bit interested to see why there was a car in front, but of course Boss has got a 4-second advantage. That is actually a back marker, so that now tells us that there is traffic being involved in the front leaders races here. Brian Alvarez, oh, there's been contact down at the S's section. Brian Alvarez involved, and he's going to peel off to the left hand side, potentially knowing that there is a leader coming through. Let's have a look at the replay here at Brian Alvarez up toward the SEC side by side. That's already playing a dangerous game. Oh, they both went round in synchronization. Synchronized spinning here at the Road Atlanta. And it's Simon Mizomo there, the Australian, getting involved. So unfortunately there for both drivers, synchronized spinning was the way they both went. To be honest, they were playing a very, very interesting, well, very, what's the word I'm looking for? A very risky game indeed.
As right now, it is Lazarus who's still trying to get past. There's actually, no, that is Chris van der Nies, I should say. So he's right behind him as well. These two drivers are going to give it everything they've got. Chris van der Nies is going to be looking to try and get away from Lazarus, to go and get that race win ahead of Votta. But he's also got to be aware Lazarus is looking to become a 2-time race winner this season in the first 2 rounds. So it is going to be the key factor. One man looking for a first win, one man looking for a second. It is all pride on the line as they come round onto the main straight now. Going to be headed into turn number 1. Try not to spin in the S's like we saw the drivers doing just before. As Clays gets past Burns a little bit further back. Those two are going to be locked in a battle. The Brit versus the Belgium. And these two drivers up at the top as well. Chris van der Nies, we're going to go to the battle between Steve Clays and Burns, as through the right-hander we will now go onto the main straight. Is Slipstreamer's toe gonna be an option, as it looks like he's gonna be right there with him? But turn number 1, fast right-hander, gonna slot in behind, keep the slipstream, keep the toe, and wait for another option, as Jesper Burns is 100% weighing his options here, wondering, when can I make this pass? Where is the best place to make this pass? So then I've got a good defense heading for the rest of the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. Great move there by Steve Clays, of course, the Belgian driver. Put in a decent effort last time out as Silverstone, but he is looking for a potential podium. But unfortunately, that is over 2 seconds up the road. And of course, Jesper Burns is not going to take that line down. Meanwhile, Ricardo Luis Pereira gets past Christopher McDuff there, the Scots driver. So he's now put a car in between him and Gabdi. Gabdi has, it looks like Mike Pierce potentially behind him. I believe that. Let me have a check of the names here. It is Mike Pierce. My apologies on that one. We now see that's a wild move there. Jesper Burns having a look at trying to play the defensive game, but it looks like. I believe that is going to be Burns just staying behind there in his battle with Steve Clays. Clays will not be wanting that because he's got to try and close that gap down here to Reece Saunders. So both cars having a tussle here, but look at that. Burns is not giving this one up, putting himself on the inside line for turn number 1. They're going to go side by side in toward the S's. This is going to be a bit of a dangerous game, but it looks like Burns knows exactly what is about to happen if he decided not to back off.
Yeah, and it may be down the setup as well. We saw right there that it comes to an interesting one because through these corners, it seems like there's not as much downforce compared to the car in front of him. Then again, I say that he gets a little bit of a boost on the exit, maybe down the slipstream. How have these drivers got the setup on these cars? That is going to be a key factor because some people may opt for a safer setup while others opt for a more aggressive one. So how have you set up your car? How far can you push the frame? Because if you push it a slight bit too far, your tyres may start skidding, which the windshield wipers come on for some reason on the car of Jesper Burns there momentarily. But you can see the revs building up into 6th gear, all over the back of him, smelling the exhaust pipe, but he's going to stick in behind for the time being as we approach the 25-minute mark. And this is one hell of a fight in the battle for P number 14.
I like what Jesper Burns did. I think he used the windscreen wipers as a distraction tactic because, of course, there is a rear view mirror here in these cars. Hang on a second, because Burns might have a look here at a move, us back out of it. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, I think Jesper Burns just used that use the windscreen wipers as a distraction because Steve Clay would have just seen those windscreen wipers going, and that would be exactly what he can see. That'll be the one thing that he can see. That's all they need to get those eyes moving up in towards the rear view mirror, so he's not looking at his braking point, and that is a really well done battle there. But Jesper Burns just wasn't able to put off Steve Clays there. Steve Clays putting in a really well worked effort. He's got 4.5 seconds to Reece Saunders, so I don't think a podium is quite on here for Steve Clay, but this is motor racing, anything can happen. We've already seen that the elite class is now moving in towards some traffic, so they're going to have to deal with that. Is Jesper Burns going to go for another move for it, or is he potentially too far back? He'll be able to move, but he has got that inside line here for the chicane. They're heading towards 10A, and there goes Jesper Burns back up past Steve Clay. Good move there from the Englishman.
That was an absolutely lovely move. No contact at all. Just nice, clean. He made his intentions clear. That is how you make a pass up into P number 14. Now he's got to hope. He's got quite a bit of clean air here. 5 seconds to the driver in front of Reece Saunders. So now he's going to have to put that pedal to the metal and the foot to the floor to try and get away from Clays to get up to Saunders, because he will 100% want to chase down that podium of the pro category. As you see Reece Saunders there at the end of the S's, and there is a few corners in between the two drivers, but right now Reece Saunders still trying to chase down Blow, who then is 5 seconds behind the pro leader of Dean Powell. So that is a nice little lead going on, but Burnson is locked in a battle right here with Danny Lee. The nice little battle between these two drivers. The man who is the reason this championship exists, now locked in a battle with race 2 winner from last week, and it looks like he's got that move done. He's up 1 position from the race start. He dropped down to P11 earlier on, but now he's up into P number 9. Danny Lee siphon his way through this field slowly but surely, but now he's got 5 seconds to Strand, who is ahead of him. So right now it seems like his race is going to be between himself and Burnson, unless he gets a lot of speed or something happens to Strand ahead, as right now the race is being led by Felix Botter with a gap of 4 seconds to Van der Nies, which is now going to be Lazarus, then Van der Nies again. These two drivers finally locking horns as they head into the right-hander. These two are going to go at it. Lazarus looking for the second win here. Is he going to get past? Yes, he will. He will be past the Dutchman of Chris Van der Nies. But is Chris Van der Nies going to give it up yet? The white Porsche versus the green and black. Is there going to be a move down the inside like we saw earlier on with the many other drivers? But nope, he's going to slot him behind. He's going to play it safe as they head out the chicane and then down onto the main pit straight again. These drivers are going to give it everything, but the real question is Lazarus going to fly ahead, or is Chris Van der Nies going to stick right with him? Heading down through turn number 1, and it's going to be these drivers who are going to give it everything as they head into the S's.
Yeah, I think Carl Lazarus has done an absolutely brilliant move there. Chris Van der Nies potentially taking some out of his tyres. I don't know how much he has used, but it will definitely be worn after almost half an hour of this race here. Traffic approaching here for both Van der Nies and Lazarus. They'll have to play quite strategic. I think if Van der Nies is smart, he can use that traffic to his advantage, because I don't think blue flags will not be a feature. And even if they are, it won't be a get out the way of the faster car. It'll be here's some advice. There's a faster car behind you. You don't have to get out of the way. You know, just be warning, there is a faster car behind you. Chris Van der Nies now tucked up right behind the rear wing here of Corey Lazarus. Lazarus will now play the defensive maneuver, but it looks like Chris Van der Nies is going to just get some self-info here. He sits in behind Corey Lazarus, and Lazarus will now be guiding Chris Van der Nies around his racing lines here. So he doesn't quite know, but I think Chris Van der Nies is now going to see if he can potentially learn anything off Lazarus, save a little bit of tyres, save a little bit of fuel, and then potentially find himself in a position where he can then go for a move within the last 5 minutes. So we now tick down to those final 15 minutes here in the second round of the Danny Lee Porsche Carrera Cup, as Alejandro De La Fiora in 7th place sits in a really good place here. It may not be the replication that he's hoping for after Silverstone, still a decent result for now.
And one thing Guy noticed with Lazarus right there, even though there was lap traffic, he used it to his advantage. He knew that Van der Nies was going to be on his left-hand side. The lap traffic moved to the left-hand side to let Lazarus pass. So what he did, he boxed in Van der Nies, meaning that he had to slow down due to the lap traffic, and he had to lose out quite a few moments. One man who will definitely be losing out though is that is Rhys Saunders, who is off in the middle of the S's, on the grass, on the apex. That is going to be an RTG. We'll get a replay. And what on earth has happened here to Rhys Saunders? The privateer was at a loss on his own, but there was smoke, there was a car, the purple car went off. Was it all? That was contact at the apex and into the barrier. No surprise there that it's an RTG.
That is a really, really unfortunate one. I've got my head in my hands after that one, because I knew that purple car was going to be a distraction, but unfortunately for Rhys, it's going to be a retirement. It's going to be an RTG, as you said. Yeah, that's going to be so unfortunate. I'm sure he's absolutely kicking himself for that one, because it wasn't really his own fault. He was running in such a good position, and that now has third in the pro category to Jesper Burns, and I don't think he even knows about it. So Burns versus Steve Clay will now be a podium, a position for a podium place here. So that battle is going to heat up even more here. There is Jesper Burns up 4 places from his starting position. Where is Steve Clay? Of course, he's there, about 7/10 behind him. The Belgium in for the Eagle Speed Academy is really running right behind Jesper Burns, and now he knows what's at stake. I did say that this could be potentially a battle for the podium, and strange things have happened in motorsport, and huzzah, it has happened. That retirement now means this is a battle for third place. How will Clay play this next round of chess?
Yeah, that is going to be a key factor. He's going to be looking in that rear view mirror a whole lot more now. Before Reese went off, he may have just been looking in the rear view mirror thinking, okay, I may not be able to get a podium here, and I'm just going to play it safe, stick with this battle for now, not look in the rear view mirror as much and hope for the best. But now he's in a battle for the podium position in the pro category. He's going to be looking in that rear view mirror a whole lot more. And if anybody is new to iRacing and wondering why did they RTG, why did they not keep going? Because the damage model on iRacing is incredibly realistic. So not only was there the damage which he would have picked up from the contact, the rear right end of the Porsche went into that barrier incredibly hard. So that would have been insane suspension damage, insane body damage, and no wonder that would have been a retirement from the race. But right now, Burns is still looking in the rear view mirror, defending from Clays, and the battle for the final spot on the pro podium is going to continue here in the pro category. It's Powell, followed by Blow, then Burns and Clays, then Altmaier. For the elite category, it's Votter, followed by Lazarus, then Van der Nies, Finoli and Andrews. For the AM category, it is Luis Pereira, followed by PS, Kenyon, Viers and Fellows, and of course there's a few pro drivers in the middle there between the AMs. So the AM drivers getting a little bit split up in this race as it does continue going. And of course, if you're looking for any advice on iRacing, or in fact any other platforms which you may race on, one thing that can definitely help you out is Coach Dave, is the Coach Dave Delta. It's one of our supporting sponsors, and a big thank you to them in their supporting role for this series. Coach Dave Delta with Auto Insights is a setup, data analysis and AI coaching app for iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Le Mans Ultimate and even Gran Turismo 7. Remove the mystery and stay ahead of your rivals with Delta by Coach Dave. Go to CoachDaveAcademy.com. Some drivers may be using that out on the circuit, that may be helping them out quite a lot, as Mazomo is down in P number 20. P number 28, what has happened to them? Did they have most likely an incident earlier on in this race, and now they are on a defensive? They have got Gabdi and Healy right behind him, as Clark right now on a defensive game. He's got Davies right behind him, and these two are not giving each other an inch of room. They're right up each other's bumper.
Yeah, absolutely. They're keeping themselves in close company for sure. And that is a lovely livery from Samuel Clark. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the Duckham's livery. We had that previously in the likes of the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, the Porsche Sprint Cup Challenge GB. That's also happening in the UK. That is some big damage, bodywork damage there for Samuel Clark, but a little bit of a replica, a little bit of a throwback to the Duckham's livery, which I believe still exists. I think I need to check. I haven't seen the Porsche Carrera Cup GB Championship so far, but I need to check if that livery is still a thing. Clive Davies then, P26, and he now look back to here to Corey Lazarus, who's managed to sneak his way into this little fight here, and it looks like Chris Van der Nies will also try and follow through on the limping car of Samuel Clark. Looks to see now, there goes Elias Finoli. So Finoli has also been slithering there in the background, potentially wanting to take a position or two, but he's got to gain another second on these guys as he's now finally freed himself from the traffic. Finoli is in a decent spot, but I don't think he'll be happy with sitting here in P4 as he's done for the majority of the way.
Yeah, and you can see it as the track map shows up on the top right hand side of the screen. This circuit has cars absolutely everywhere, but you can also see the gap that Votter has to Lazarus right now. The German up there out front, 7.8 second lead. They took off at the race start, and they have just had this race in their stride. We are into the final 10 minutes of this race here at Road Atlanta, and they have driven away with it as we get eyes on the race leader in that green, blue and purple and black livery, and they are having an absolute field day. It's not a Sunday, but they're practically having a Sunday drive on in fact, no, it is a Sunday. My brain is not braining. He's having a nice Sunday drive on a British Sunday night, or a German Sunday night, I should say. For Lazarus, it's a Monday morning. But right now, he is driving off with it. He's having one hell of a time, as the rest of his competitors, they just continue to battle with each other further back, and I do not think they're going to be catching up to him anytime soon, and this race is Votta's to lose.
Absolutely, I think Felix Mossa after this round will take the championship lead after his great result in Silverstone, and of course this P1, his first win of the season, will be very much needed to put under his belt and inspire a lot of confidence for Felix Mossa. I'm looking forward to seeing how this will turn out here. Corby Lazarus still trying to wiggle Chris Van der Nies off his rear bumper. But Van der Nies will be very much keeping his toes in check here, because he's very much still trying to balance that car through some of these corners. They're heading towards 6 and towards 7. A little bit of traffic there for Corby Lazarus. Lazarus will be catching one of the AM cars, because that's usually one of the numbers that starts with 2. So if you are in the AM category, you have numbers 200 to 299. If you're in the pro category, your number is usually between 100 and 199. And then if you are in the elite category, my apologies, I believe your number is between 1 and 99. I don't think you can pick 0. I don't think you can pick 1 either, because that usually reserved for the championship leader, or the championship winner. But let's not get too into things before we go down a deep rabbit hole. But anyway, Luke Andrews, he's new onto the scene here. He's passed Finoli, in fact, so he's done a little bit of saving to his tyres around this Road Atlanta circuit. And Andrews is actually starting to push a little bit more, and I wonder if he's going to be potentially opening himself onto the battle between Lazarus and Van der Nies. So we'll have to see how much he can gain, but he's still 1.3 seconds behind. Finoli, I think, has pushed a little bit too much, dropping down to 5th place now.
Yeah, so he's going to drop a little bit further back, but it looks like he's going to stay there for the time being. It's a little bit unlucky when it comes down to it, but Van der Nies, of course, dropping 2 seconds in the past 2 laps. And honestly, it is no surprise there. Looking at the last lap times of these drivers, everybody from P12 to P number 3 is setting 1:20 20s. However, the top 2 of Corby Lazarus and Felix Votta setting 1:19 19s, of course, and that is going to be a 1:19 4.66. That is a brand new fastest lap, that last lap for Felix Votta. It was, and Corby Lazarus also in the 1:19s, but only a 1:19.966 on the last lap. The last lap time for Chris Van der Nies was a 1:20 3.59, and Luke Andrews is actually faster than Chris Van der Nies last lap with a 1:20 3.24. So only slight, but it's still an improvement. And it looks like that's going to give a slight advantage when it comes down to these battles. But where is he gaining that little bit of extra lap time? That is going to be a true question, as Corby Lazarus still trying to chase down that race lead, as we do now go into the final 5 minutes. And it is going to be an interesting one, as these drivers are using absolutely everything in their arsenal. And something to add on from one of our supporting sponsors, of course, the last one being Coach Dave Delta. Note, all entrants have been offered a 1-month coupon for Coach Dave Delta subscription, and Danny will be sharing lap data and analysis using the data app, as that is Ed Junker, who is off the circuit and in the grass. What has happened there? He is dead last out of the drivers who are currently out on the circuit. We have a few drivers in the pit lane. Ed Junker with an unfortunate moment there. That is going to be extremely unfortunate. Sits in P number 32.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, we've had 5 retirements there. Of course, we've had Shannon Fever, we've had Ludbrook, and then we've had Reece Saunders. We've had, oh, that's a big accident. That's Sam Clark in the wall. That's suspension damage, wishbone damage, and that is also now Sam Clark out of the race, as well as it's like Robin Nelson. Robin Nelson, but we'll move on to that. What happened with Samuel Clark? Did he get a hit here? Because he's running in a little bit of traffic. The car is already slightly damaged. In toward the first car, it just didn't turn. It just did not turn. It did not respond. Slams into the barrier, and unfortunately, there for Samuel Clark, he is now out of this race.
You could see it on the replay. It was a front right lockup. You saw it going into the corner. You saw the smoke coming out of that front right tyre. So that was 100% a lockup. There was a car on the inside, maybe throwing him off a little bit. You cannot put the brakes on and take him off instantly. You will lock up, unless you have ABS on absolute full. You will be locking up and you will be veering straight off on the circuit. Of course, another thing with these Porsche Cup cars, there is no traction control, so it all comes down to the input of your right foot or left foot, depending on what foot you use. Most of the time it will be a right foot, as right now going down into turn number 1, it is going to be Gabdi, who is currently trying to get past Mazomo, who has not had a very good race this evening. He's currently in P number 25. He is the lowest of the elite category runners. The Kiwi down in P number 25, whilst the next lowest elite driver, who is currently out on the circuit, is, I believe, P number 10. So that is extremely unfortunate, and they will be down there, and that is going to be extremely unlucky. Yes, P number 10 for the next elite driver out on the circuit, and that is not going to work out that time. And of course, coming into these final 2 minutes, we've got to give a thank you to Grid Engineering by SimLab for their support on this series as well. Grid Engineering provides a wide range of their top-tier sim racing products, including Porsche licensed equipment to provide the ultimate motorsports experience in your simulator. Find the full range at grid-engineering.com. Note, one Porsche 911 GT3 Cup console will be awarded to one of the competitors at the end of the season in a draw. So there is plenty of draws going on through this at the end of this season, it seems, which of course is a big part of what many people will most likely be driving in this series for. But of course, for the absolute thrill that you get from sim racing, as there is 15 seconds till that timer runs out. Where is the race leader? Will we have another lap, or will this be the final? Without a doubt, this will be the final lap of this race. Felix Votter has had it in his hands the entire time, as Jesper Burns is going to be locked in a battle here, and on the final lap, that is Andrew Fellows, who is in the barrier. That is a major crash on the exit, and that is going to be Rodriguez, who seemingly had a moment, as well as Gabdi. Was there damage as he's slowing down a lot? That is without a doubt unintentional, or was it not? But Felix Votter here at Road Atlanta will become the third race winner of this season. Felix Votter wins the Road Atlanta race, and he will join Lazarus and Bernson as a race winner. It's Lazarus P number 2 and Van den Ees P number 3 to round out the overall and the elite category. Andrews comes P number 4, Finoli P5, Tyler P6, Delafleur P number 7. But of course, in the pro category, Dean Powell with a 2-second gap behind him. He's had it in his hands for quite a while now. He let his teammate Daniel Lee on further back. He's now P number 9. Powell comes across P number 11 to win in the pro category. Blow P2. Clays versus Burns. This battle went on for ages. Clays will come home P number 13, P number 3 in pro. Oh, Burns will lose out to Ultra on the line. Was that fuel? As Burns will now come P number 15, 16 for McDuff, as Luis Piera wins in the AM category. P number 17, Pierce P number 2 in AM, and Kenyon P number 3 in AM, as long as they keep it on the tarmac. And of course, a final thank you to the chosen community where this series takes place. It is Evolution Sim Racing is the host community of the Daniel Lee Porsche Cup, and Danny has chosen the Evolution Sim Racing community as host to the Daniel Lee Porsche Cup by GT Omega. ESR runs multiple well-run leagues of variety of disciplines. Head to discord.gg/ESR to join their community and take part in one of their series. But we get eyes on the race winner overall and in the elite category. He joins Lazarus, he joins Burnson, and he is the third race winner in round number 2 at Road Atlanta. 45 minutes of total control. Felix Votter, take a bow.
Brilliant effort there from Felix Votter. He absolutely had it from the lights of flag. Zero pressure on his shoulders. Of course, there was a couple of challenges there from Chris Van der Nies and of course Corey Lazarus there, but none of them could really challenge Votter like he has been sailing out in front. And of course, I think that he's going to take a lot of confidence going into the next round of the championship. I'm really intrigued to see how that's all going to pan out and how this championship is really going to open up. There is the final results there for the elite class. Felix Votter is your winner for the number 33. Then Corey Lazarus with Chris Van der Nies there in P3. Luke Andrews will just fall short of the podium, but he'll be happy with P4. Elias Finolas, unfortunately there, finishing down in 5th. He had a big opportunity to take a podium, unfortunately just hasn't taken it, ran out of tyres. And then George Tyler there in P6, Alejandro De La Fiore in P7 with Matt Strand grabbing some points for the first time this season, with Danny Lee there in P10. Caperton, I don't think he'll be happy there down in P10. Now will potentially affect his championship contention with Zomo in 11th, 1 lap down from Felix Votter. Of course, it didn't seem to have it all together for him there. Onto the pro, Dean Powell for Danny Lee Racing with Luke Blow for Blair Autosport there, 11.1 seconds behind. It was Steve Clays who managed to grab that final podium place for the Eagle Speed Academy. The Belgian putting in a really good effort there. Ben Ultra from his double DNF to P4 in his first completed race this season, with Jesper Burns finishing home in 5th. Christopher McDuff in the 114 in P6 there, the privateer, finishing in a great place ahead of Wiley Blair, the Australian driver for the other Blair Autosport team. So they'll be happy, I believe, with 2nd and 7th. Kalam Betty for the Singaporean, 1 lap down, and then retirement from Robin Noel Edmonds, Reese Saunders, Shannon Fever, and Friedrich Rees. For Edric Rees, my apologies on that one. It looks like the E became an F, but that was the category. And then we move on towards our amateurs. Ricardo Luis Pereira comes out on top for the Volta Loop Competizione team, with Mike Pierce in the 2nd place, the 228 for the DCWR team, with Martin Kenyon for Flatline Racing here, finishing home in P3, with Graham Vivers there in P4 ahead of Clive Davies, the half British, half Irish driver, ahead of Francisco Rodriguez, the American driver on home soil, finishing home in P6. Andrew Fellows in P7. We had Nathan Healy, who had a spin earlier on in the race, home to finish in 8th in the class, with Zach Tempon. He also had a spin earlier on. The American driver only just about managed to get into the top 10, with Avesta Gabdi, the Ukrainian, who looked so good with a lot of potential during that race. Unfortunately, finishing down in P10 after a late drama for him, season finishing a lap down, and unfortunately will have to come back next time to potentially reclaim a really good result, which he was potentially taken away of. Let's just go that far for Gab D. Mike Monroe in P11 had Ed Junker. He also had an incident in the mid part of the race. And Samuel Clark, who had that big accident within the last 5 minutes of the race. And then Brian Alvarez with retirement, and John Lukebrook with Corey Moore for the Dick Esports Garage. And that rounds off your elites, your pro, and your amateur race results here. And a brilliant race for the Danny Lee Porsche Cup Championship, of course, produced by Apex Racing and TV. It has been an absolutely brilliant race around here at the Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta.
Most definitely. And now we can move on to what many drivers would love to do one day. And one man will get to do it tonight. We don't have anybody else waiting, so we shall get straight to him. We see him on the screen now, getting the replays of his car. It is Felix Votter. We will get him into the commentary box, and we shall interview him to get him to find out what happened there with that absolute incredible drive. Felix Votter, you are live on Apex Racing TV. What an incredible race, absolute domination. Talk us through it.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I don't know. It was quite amazing. Road Atlanta is usually one of the tracks I really like. I drove a few official races this week, so I got some practice there. And I didn't expect to get away that early, though. I expected Chris to stay close, but he seemed to have some issues or he fighted a little bit with Elias or something, I don't know. And then it was basically I was just trying to not die with my tires because that was a thing in the end, but yeah, it worked out.
Definitely. You were talking about the tyres there. What was the degradation like? Of course, it would have been slightly different for you because you had a lot of clean air until the lap traffic came out and got in the way a little bit, but it seemed like you side through it quite cleanly. What was the degradation like with not being locked in too many battles with other drivers?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite fine. It was definitely better than if I would have to push there because, well, I could just be kind to my tires and everything was good. And the traffic was quite fine, so the lap guys were really good and it worked out quite well. I mean, it's Road Atlanta. There are some tough corners to get past, but I just tried to save fuel there, not stress anyone out, and it worked out pretty great.
Fair enough. Adam, I shall let you take the next question.
Thank you very much, Felix. An absolutely brilliant effort. Talk us through qualifying because it's such a difficult place to get the car in fine tune with. How did you approach it around qualifying?
Yeah, the qualifying was a thing because I thought lap 3 or lap 4 could be crazy, but for me lap 2 was the sweet spot, which was surprising. Although I kind of threw away lap 4, like in the second corner, it was already gone. But I was happy it was working out. I was pretty scared because Corby was taking a late quali, but he seemed to have some issues in the qualifying, and then it was quite fine and it was working.
Of course, you must have seen the battling that was going on behind. How did you feel once you managed to shake off the likes of Van der Nies, of course, the Dutchman who was right on your tail in the early stages?
Yeah, it was pretty fine. I just tried to get away as far as I can, and because I knew there will be some lap guys, and I was like, okay, maybe I get a gap. And it was all good in the end, so yeah, it was quite a calm one.
And finally, how do you think you're going to potentially take this to future round? Because there must be a spring in your step after that incredible round. We head to Donington next round as well, so potentially one where you could maybe get a good result there and continue with this good form you have.
I hope so. I love Donington. I don't have that much Porsche Cup experience there though. But I am already excited for that. Although I don't know if Donington was one of the rain races we have, because we had that as well somewhere. But yeah, I'm excited anyways. Donington is a great track and it's definitely a close track, so there will be a lot of fighting.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I will check that for you right now, as Donington next week it's a dry race. We do not have a wet race until we go to Snetterton for round number 5, it seems. But of course, Donington next week, 2 25-minute races. Of course, the win tonight, 3rd race winner of the season. Is there anybody you'd like to give a thanks to before we let you go?
Yeah, I guess I want to give a thanks to everyone in the official races to push me that hard, because that got basically the great pace I have right now. And yeah, well, I would take it like that. And of course, thanks to Danny for organizing this league, and thanks to you guys for the commentary on the stream here.
Quite welcome. We shall let you go. Congratulations on that race win. Pop open the champagne and have a good rest of your night.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
Same to you. So next up, Adam, shall we bring in Steve Clays, because we saw him quite a lot that race, locked in that battle, and it'll be interesting to get some very, very good perspective on what was happening there. As Steve Clays, well, you are live on Apex Racing TV. Welcome to the commentary box. Adam, I'll let you take this one.
First of all, congratulations, Steve. It must have been a brilliant result for you. Let's go in towards qualifying first, because you know it's a tough circuit to get right, Road Atlanta.
Good evening, guys. Yes, I'm really happy with the qualify, but I had a better time at I think 3:68. But in the chicane, I had that really small off track, so it didn't count. And then the last lap, I was 1/10 slower, so still good. But I was very happy because I never drove those times before. In the official races, I wasn't going below 21. So I'm very happy about this result.
Of course, that start to the race must have been very, very crazy, because of course there were so many cars. What was the plan going in toward that first lap?
Yeah, there was a lot of, I'm not gonna say mayhem, but there was lots of things going on, and I wanted to pick some positions, and I thought like, let's just back off a bit, see what's happening. Then I got passed by a few class Porsches, and I was a little bit, and I was like, oh damn, I'm losing positions. And then I thought, okay, long race, just try to keep up. Then I saw the guys were a little bit faster, and I just followed.
Of course, you managed to take a podium place. Is that something you potentially take to the next couple of rounds? There must be a spring in your step for sure.
Oh yeah, I was really aiming for a podium. I didn't count on being third. I just got lucky, I think, because Ben was trailing me. I was like, oh man, he's gonna pass me. I'm going to go to fifth or something. And then in the last chicane, I went for it, and Jesper didn't defend. I was like, that's strange. I thought he would really, I'm not gonna say block, but made it difficult, and he didn't do that. I just went for it, and then I talked to him after the race, and he just ran out of fuel the last few meters, so he just had to let me go. So I got lucky in the end, I think. Otherwise it was fourth, but okay, I take it.
Alexa, do you have anything for our podium setter?
Yes, of course I do. Donington in 2 weeks' time, going back over to the British circuits. How do you think the tactic is going to be going into that race? Of course, podium tonight. You will definitely be aiming for a podium next week, I would say. So what's going to be the key factor going into Donington? As of course it's got a lot of greenery like Road Atlanta, but it is quite different from my perspective. What about yours?
First of all, I think I need some practice, because Donington hasn't been on the calendar, official calendar, for a few seasons, I think. So I know the chicane is a tricky one for off tracks, so really have to be careful there. So I think I just need to practice.
Fair enough then. And of course, you were talking about the battle earlier on with that move at the chicane. Looked like you were locked in a battle majority of the race, and it was quite an intense one as well. Looking in that rear view mirror, looking at the windshield, what was you thinking about going through those fights and getting towards the end of the race?
Well, I just passed Jesper because he made a mistake, I think he just used less wing because he had so much speed on the back straight. I had to block him, and when I was behind him, I could just follow, close in, but really not pass. And then I decided, that's what I said on the stream, just don't fight me, we're losing time, And then I just let him go, and I thought, okay, just follow, let's see what happens. Maybe he makes a mistake, maybe go wide, whatever, but I'm not able to lead and be the better of him. So I just was thinking, follow, be smart, don't do stupid stuff.
Oh, fair enough. Nice, smart, nice and calm it seemed. Before we let you go, and is there anybody you would like to give a thanks to?
Well, first off, Danny Lee, of course, for organizing this, and then you guys for broadcasting.
Thank you very much. And we shall let you go. Have a good rest of your evening, and congratulations on the Pro Podium.
Thank you guys for having me. Bye-bye.
And now it is the one who is the organizer of this series. We had him in the box last week. It looks like this is going to be a thing over the entire season. Danny Lee, you are live on Apex Racing TV. It's your series. You are the reason this series exists. Welcome to the commentary box. Talk us through that race.
I'd say that one was very, very sweaty. I think everybody's kind of feeling the same. Everybody held their breath for 45 minutes just trying to get through this roller coaster of a track that just seems to absolutely knock pieces out here. So glad that's over, but I'm looking forward to the next one. I can't remember exactly where it is, but people are now in the swing of it, getting into the groove. And as you said at the start, folks are here because of me, but they're not here because of me. They're here because they love this Porsche Cup so much that if there's a league going, they want to be in on it. So this is basically a congregation of Porsche Cup fans more than anything else. I'm just glad that there's been such a great response to it. So I'm happy that everybody's here, putting in some seriously good racing. Oscar was my shadow today. Had a really, really tough fight with him early on, and just love it. I just love the fact that we're going to have different people to fight with every single round and just kind of craft that story.
Yeah, it's Donington. It is Donington in 2 weeks' time for the next round. It's going to be dry again. 2 25-minute races. Of course, we had a 45-minute race tonight, but 2 25-minute races in 2 weeks' time. How do you think that's going to play out on your part?
I think we're all going to love it, especially the UK-born people. I think Donington is just a bit special. It's going to be nice. It's also my local, so there's that element of it just feeling quite homely. Bringing everybody from all these nationalities to the local racetrack is great. So hopefully everybody's on board with it, and if they haven't yet discovered how good Donington is, they're about to. So I'll be supporting them, offering up for the reference lap and some support to those who need it, so that everybody is up to speed and ready to go in 2 weeks' time.
Well, fair enough. Adam, I'll let you ask a few questions.
Of course, it has been a wild ride here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. How did your qualifying go? Because it must have been such a stressful kind of environment. It's such a technical site to get around.
Yeah, I think I'm probably amongst a few people that really could have done with a few more laps. Ruined it on lap 3 with a graze with a barrier, and once you lose those tyres that are up to temperature, that's basically it. You don't have any time to warm them up. The out lap is so short, your next lap is so short, so if you screw up your qualifying in any way, shape or form, you're basically done. So I feel like I could have qualified around about the 5th or 6th mark. In the end, 10th, it makes a big difference because everybody is just really fast, really close, pace is great, and everybody's really consistent. So it is nice to have that class of driver here as well.
It is very much so, and of course, that race start must have been highly chaotic for you. How did you contend to stay out of trouble?
I think for the most part, folks were well behaved. The top 10 at the very least. There were no crazy incidents. Dean, the teammate beside me, got a great start, so I'll be looking at his notes soon enough. Yeah, it was really clean. I think I was surprised. I expected there to be some kind of calamity, but the official races are also running at Road Atlanta this week, so I think there's no inexperience here. Everybody's in the groove, and they knew what they were setting out to do, especially with 45 minutes to run. That means keep your nose clean, don't do anything silly, give it 10 minutes for the dust to settle, and then start putting your pace down.
Let's open it a bit more, not just on this current race, but the league entirely. Of course, I believe this is season 1. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's the first time I've been on the broadcast for a championship like this. Where do you hope to see this series? What do you hope it becomes?
It would be nice for it to run as a serial series, a season 2 would be nice to put on the cards. However, these things do have a tendency to just kind of run themselves. Once you've got them up and running, that's the hardest bit. Just getting your pilot episode out is the very, very hardest thing. After that, everybody's here. They're all linked up. You've got a pool of drivers who may then return again, and maybe ESR, who are hosting this series, will also just take up the reins and carry it on as well. They're already doing that, but you know how it goes. Things do just tend to take a life of their own. But the fact that Porsche Cup has been sprung up from nothing with ESR is a good step forward. So I'm proud of that, but also they do take a lot of work. So credit to the ESR guys for their experience. It's the reason why I've chosen them to run it as such, so that we can focus on the racing, I can focus on video creation and things like that without having so much time spent doing the admin, because it is a heavy task. So a shout out to them at the very, very least.
That's absolutely awesome. And of course, have you ever thought about potentially next season, potentially maybe changing up the cars, or potentially maybe adding new things that will potentially spice up the championship with the current Porsche Cup cars?
I think it's a good question. I think the ingredients that you change will basically just be the tracks. Maybe some tweaks to the race format if there's any issues of ones before that sort of come out in the wash, so to speak. So for example, on reflection, Road Atlanta might not be the best place for a 45-minute race, because you get the leaders tangling with back markers just because of the length of the lap is quite short and the length of the race is quite long. So maybe next season some extra thoughts will be put into making sure that doesn't happen, because we all like racing. None of us like it when traffic starts to tangle up and affect the race results in any way, or we get in each other's way when it happens. So maybe some extra efforts will be done to avoid that in future. But otherwise, it's all about what's on the menu. What tracks are you using, and do people want to show up for it? And it looks like people do.
And of course, just before I move on, finally, where are you? What thank you would you like to say before we come off stream?
Certainly, thank you to the series sponsors. Without them, it's always tentative, but with their support, it was always guaranteed that this series would run, and that takes a big load off your mind trying to get everybody together, because you don't have to worry then whether it's going to go ahead or not. You know it's going to happen. So thanks very much to GT Omega, long-time partner and great supporter of my own channel. Great guys, Coach Dave Delta, Race Anywhere, and Grid Engineering for their support as well, offering up the Coach Dave Delta free coupons for the entrance, so that they can share my telemetry and I can share it with them. Grid Engineering for offering up that GT3 Cup console that's going to be great. Really love that. And Race Anywhere for their support. Wonderful people in the UK, in the middle of the country. So if you need any kit, they're a great place to go. But without their sponsors, it would be much harder to get these things going, and also to ESR for providing their platform for us to run the league.
And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you back in the comms booth in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
Take care.
Well then, Adam, that was one heck of a race, if I do say so myself. Let's round this out, shall we? I would just like to say, Adam, thank you very much for hopping in the box with me this evening. And quickly before we finish, let's get your synopsis on that race.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Of course, first time commentating on iRacing, first time commentating for Apex Racing TV. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on the broadcast, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been awesome to see these Porsche Cup cars in action. You cannot go wrong with Porsche Cup cars that just host so much brilliant racing over the course of the 45 minutes. And of course, with the likes of Silverstone on the calendar, of course we got Donington as well. I'm pretty sure we're in the US for a couple of rounds as well, which is also very incredible. Having a look there, Snetterton and the Nordschleifer. The Nordschleifer is also on here. Sebring's also going to be a brilliant circuit. Honestly, the calendar is incredible. You've really got some great circuits on there that will challenge these drivers to absolute limit, and that's exactly what we want. We want racing, we want overtakes, we want drama. I think is the main thing. We want some brilliant racing, but in the end we want to just create a brilliant production, and I hope we have done that tonight. A big congratulations to all the drivers that got some impressive results. The battlings that has gone on. Yes, there was a few crashes. Yes, it unfortunately got a little bit scrappy to a bit too far of a degree. It still doesn't take away from the absolute fabulous racing we've had, and I'm sure that our German Felix Vogger will come away as a very happy boy.
Will come away very happy. Like I said, I would like to thank you for hopping in tonight. Of course, covering for Matthew Duffin, who was unable to make it to commentate tonight. But Matthew Duffin will be back with me in the box in 2 weeks' time when we go to Donington Park. You can expect a lot of Donington praise next week because it is Matthew's home circuit. So it has been an absolute hell of a race tonight. This is why we love sim racing. It's fast, it's energetic. You see battles like you saw tonight. We've got 2 25-minute races in 2 weeks' time at Donington Park. I've been Alexa Marshall with Adam Reed. Samuli in the background as the producer. Have a good night.